Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Amy Moon, and I'm on the News Partnerships team working on the Google News Initiative in APAC. Welcome, good afternoon, to the town hall for the Google News Initiative's Journalism Emergency Relief Fund. We also have on the call Irene J. Liu, who I'm sure many of you recognize, who is our APAC lead for the Google News Lab, and she'll be leading the presentation today. So the purpose of this town hall is to discuss the Emergency Relief Fund, the application, eligibility criteria, and also to answer any questions. Thank you so much again for your interest in the fund, and just want to be clear that this is intended to be an informational session. So if you have any questions about the process or the program or about the emergency fund, please feel free to put them in the live comment section. We do have colleagues online who are monitoring. So if you feel more comfortable typing in Bahasa Melayu or Indonesian, please do so. If there are any questions specifically geared towards PR or press, we ask that you email press@google.com directly to get an answer straight away. So with that, we would just want to kick off our town hall, and I would like to hand it over to Irene.
Thanks so much, Amy. So let's get going. All right. So today we are going to talk about the Journalism Emergency Relief Fund. And for those of you who are joining us from Southeast Asia, welcome. And for those of you who are joining from other regions, welcome as well. The Journalism Emergency Relief Fund is an initiative of the Google News Initiative. Google News Initiative was launched in 2018 as a way for Google to work with the journalism community, everyone from reporters and editors, as well as the business side of news, to really collaborate and find ways to ensure a sustainable future for news. And as we know from the situation we're in with COVID-19, high quality news is more important than ever, and we want to be here to support all of you. So in the context of COVID-19, what are we doing to help support the news industry? The purpose of this fund is to support the production of original journalism for local communities. We know that it's not just about the disease itself now, but its impact on business, on education, and on the economy. And we want to make sure that news organizations have the resources to continue to operate and serve their communities. Our hope is that this fund, which is operating on a global level, will provide an easily accessible route to financial assistance during this really critical time. So as I mentioned, this town hall is focused for the Asia Pacific region, but if you are joining from other parts of the regions right now, or if you're just listening in, please note this is a global fund. For us here in Asia, the applications will close on the 30th of April at roughly 3 p.m., but it is a rolling application process, which means that as we receive applications, we will be assessing them and determining whether or not different applications are qualified. So please make sure you jump the queue and get ahead. Make sure that you apply as soon as possible to get ahead of the queue. You can see here the list of all of the countries where we are accepting applications. It's throughout the Asia Pacific region as well as globally. If you have any questions about this or need to refer back to this document, I really encourage you to go to the website, which will have the URL soon. It has all of this information and much more. So a quick overview of who is eligible for this program. This program is really targeting small and medium-sized news organizations that are producing original news content specifically focused on local communities. We do require that the organization and the digital presence have been in operation for at least 1 year. Now, what does this mean? A digital presence means that you have a standalone website that is of your brand that is online. So while you may also have different channels through various social media and others, we do ask that you have to have your own standalone branded presence online. The requirement is that the news organization must employ between 2 and 100 full-time staff journalists. So what this means is that if you are an organization that is only, that only employs freelancers, if you are a citizen journalism outfit, unless the staff are paid full-time and are range in between 2 and 100, you will likely not be able to qualify. In addition, one question that we've often had is, what if I have 105 or 110 full-time employee journalists? And the answer is, we do have discretion to consider applications on a case-by-case basis for newsrooms that are slightly bigger than 100 full-time employee journalists. So please do apply anyway. And one other question that we've gotten is, what is the definition of a journalist? For our purposes, it is anyone who is involved in the editorial process. So this can include reporters. It can include editors who are editing stories but are not writing them. It can also include photographers, videographers, and anyone else who's involved in the production of the news. And organizations can include for-profit or nonprofit news organizations, traditional print news organizations, as well as digital-only news organizations. Radio and TV broadcasters are also qualified, so long as you have a digital presence on your own website that's been in operation for 1 year. Who is not eligible for this fund? Government-owned entities and individuals are not eligible to apply. Content providers that are not focused on news, such as lifestyle, sports, business to business, are also not qualified. If you provide news and most of your content is news, but you also have lifestyle and sport and business coverage, that is fine. But the bulk of your content must be focused on news. Other organizations that are not eligible, basically news providers that do not have a digital presence, they do not have their own branded website, they are not eligible. And also new businesses. So basically you must be in operation for at least 1 year to qualify. And we will be asking the date of your founding in your application. So what's the process? It is actually quite straightforward. Essentially, it is just one online form. You can go to the website, which is goo.gle/JER-fund, and you'll be able to find the online application. It should really only take less than an hour to fill out. So we really suggest that you apply as soon as possible. And the reason is because we will be handling these applications on a rolling basis, which means that as applications come in, we will be evaluating them and deciding whether or not you are successful. And we will also notify of success. So in order to make sure that you don't, get behind the crowd, we really recommend that you apply sooner. And we ask that you please answer all of the questions in English. What information is required? It is a simple and quick to complete form. You have to submit it online. Basically, it requires basic company organization information, including the date that you were founded, the location of your news organization, where your operation is physically located, and which community you serve, the website URL of your publication. So we need to be able to go to your website. And also in the application, we do ask you tell us about the work that you are carrying out to assist communities in crisis during COVID-19. This is just a quick look at the application. You'll see that there are a few sections and you have to fill it out. One thing to note is that currently we have the application in website in several languages. Bahasa Melayu and Bahasa Indonesia will be, as well as Thai, will be uploaded to, and we will have versions of the website in those languages in the coming days. So please take a look at that. However, though the application, though the website will be in many local languages, we do ask you to fill your answers in English. I know it's not super convenient, but we do ask that you submit your answers in English. So how does the funding work? The funding, basically, once you are successful, we will notify you by email, and then we will require you to submit some information and register to be able to basically receive the funding. The funds will be dispersed in one installment as quickly as possible. The money is going to be in US dollars for the Asia Pacific region. So when you submit your financial information so that you can receive the money, you need to ensure that your bank can receive US dollars. The funding amounts will range from the low thousands of dollars for small hyperlocal newsrooms all the way to low tens of thousands of dollars, US dollars, for larger newsrooms. And the funding amounts will vary by region. So just a few tips as you apply. Please read the website carefully, read the terms and conditions and the frequently asked questions very carefully. As I mentioned, we will have local language versions of the website available this week in Bahasa Melayu, in Bahasa Indonesia, as well as in Thai. So please keep a lookout, read the terms and conditions and the FAQ very carefully. Most of the questions that you probably have are actually already in those documents. Download the application form ahead of time for completion ease. We will have a PDF version of the application questions in local language that you can download so that you can review the questions and prepare ahead of time. And make sure that when you apply, you describe how you're serving your community during this crisis. Now, as we all know, this COVID-19 pandemic is not just a health story, but it's a story that's also an economic story. It's a business story. And so there are many facets to this. It's not just whether or not you are doing healthcare reporting, but any other topics that are news related to the COVID-19 pandemic as it affects your community are included. So please definitely make sure you explain that in your application. Please be sure that you're only submitting one application per newsroom. So make sure you coordinate with your colleagues and you only submit one because only one application will be considered. And also do it now. Don't delay. The closing date for the application is the 30th of April. And for news people, for journalists, of course, we know that that feels like a long time from now. But in fact, we really recommend that you apply as soon as possible so that your application can be considered quickly. A few other notes. No funding will be available for non-news providers. Individuals are not eligible for this program, and government organizations are not eligible for the program. If you have any questions, do please take a look at the website, read the terms and conditions and the frequently asked questions. But if you have even other questions specifically related to your own application, do not hesitate to email us at jerfund@google.com. We have a team that is located globally that is ready to answer any of your questions. So please do email us there. And apply at goo.gle/jerfund. And with that, we're very happy to take any and all questions.
Cool. Thank you so much, Irene. Just to remind everyone on the call again, we do have colleagues that are on the line and can translate your question if you're more comfortable submitting it in Bahasa Melayu or in Indonesian. So please do go ahead. We have one question, Irene, already in the live comments that says, we started as a partnership firm 2 years ago and then registered as a private limited company last April, but have been in operation as a platform since September 2018. Do we qualify?
Yes. So if you, whether changing the format of your organization is not as important as how long you've been in operation creating news and distributing it. So by that measure, you should be eligible for the program.
Okay, great. Another kind of common question, Irene, that we get around eligibility is for companies that may be comprised of many smaller companies, or smaller TV stations, would they still be eligible to apply?
Yes. So if you have a company, but many media companies have lots of different smaller titles, right? So you have many different smaller community newspapers, or you have many local TV stations. Each one of your newspaper titles or your TV stations are eligible to apply for the fund, and so they should. In the application, there actually is a question that says, are you part of a larger media company? Please do answer it truthfully and be transparent if you are part of a larger media company, because we do want to be fair and make sure that as many different news companies receive funding. But we understand that, for your local community, what matters is the local newspaper or the local TV station. So definitely encourage all the different smaller titles to apply. And then we will be considering the applications on that basis.
Okay. And that's very helpful. I think also a common question that we get is about, citizen journalists or about freelancers. So can you share a little bit more about the eligibility requirements there?
Right. So for this program, our intention is to really try to support news organizations to be able to employ and support their full-time journalistic staff. So unfortunately, freelancers are not eligible for this program. Citizen journalists are also, if they are not paid full-time staff, would not be, if they're not part of a paid full-time staff for a news publication, also would not be eligible for the program. I will say, however, that there are a number of different programs that are available, particularly reporting grants that are being made available to freelancers who are covering the COVID-19 crisis. And actually, I'm going to, one place that has been really, really helpful is the Global Investigative Journalism Network has compiled a very helpful resource guide that actually lists all the different reporting programs and different resources that are available to freelancers, journalists, investigative reporters, and others. It also has great resources for if you are trying to make sure that you are staying safe while you're reporting, or you're trying to take care of yourself as you're trying to balance, kind of working from home and also doing your job. So really encourage you to take a look at that website because there are a number of programs that are available to freelancers and other journalists as well.
And I read one more question about eligibility. How about fact-checking organizations?
So if a fact-checking organization is, creating content relating to supporting COVID-19 and has a paid full-time staff of between 2 and 100, they would be eligible to apply. So please definitely very much encourage you to submit an application.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to give, I know sometimes there's a little bit of a lag, so I'm going to give a few moments for folks to enter their questions if there are any more on the live chat before we hop off. In the meantime, maybe Irene, can you share a little bit more about organizations that we may have worked with or have received Google funding in the past through Innovation Challenge or other kinds of journalism programs?
Sure. Certainly, we've been working the Google News Initiative and also the Google News Lab, even before that, have worked with a number of different news organizations. And so because if you have received, for example, funding from the Google News Initiative Innovation Challenge or other types of resources, you are still eligible for this program, so long as you fulfill the eligibility criteria of this fund, right? But absolutely, if you've received funding from Google in the past, you should please still take a look to see if you qualify for this fund, because having received money before does not prevent you from receiving funding in this round for this program.
Okay, great. We've received another question that says, do you have partnerships with media companies beyond this donation scheme? As a company developing its digital assets, is there an opportunity to tap into more support?
So we have a number of different programs here that allow us to, I guess the question is whether or not there are other programs available. We are constantly working to try to provide more supports for newsrooms as they are dealing with this. And so one thing that we've been doing is Google News Lab has been partnering with a number of different experts in various fields to provide workshops, for example, on fact checking and verification, or on using data or data visualization to cover the COVID-19 situation. We are actually always looking for ideas as well. If there is a need or something that you are interested in learning more about, absolutely, please definitely reach out to us, let us know. We'll try to do what we can to provide more helpful resources at this time. But in terms of just straight funding, this is the main program that we are providing for local news organizations.
Okay, just gonna wait one more moment to see if there are any additional live questions coming in from the live stream. And then maybe, Irene, the last thing that we can kind of close with, if we haven't any, is if you could share a bit about the timeline. So once folks are applying by the deadline, when can they expect to hear back and things like that?
Sure. So we, basically as applications come in, we are already evaluating them. So we are not waiting until the deadline to start evaluating the applications. Once we do, accept an application and consider it successful, the applicant will receive a notification by email. After that process, depending on whether or not you are already enrolled in the Google supplier system or not, you may have to register so that you can be able to receive funds. And actually an important note on that is because the funding will be provided in US dollars, you need to make sure that your bank will be able to actually receive US dollars, because I know that can be a consideration, and we want to, and it will take time, right? In addition, so after that, then, we will provide the funding in one chunk to people. So it's not going to be any sort of thing like staggered payments or whatever. So this process essentially is already starting now, because we opened late last week. And so we've already been receiving applications from around the world. So please do apply as soon as possible, because the sooner you apply, the sooner we can look at your application, the sooner that we can make a decision. And if you are successful, the sooner we can get the funds to your organization so you can continue to do the important work that you do.
Awesome. I think this is maybe the last question that we have. It goes, we produce only audio stories, podcasts, digital first, also includes news podcasts too. So they're asking about whether the eligibility for, organizations that produce only audio news.
So this fund is really focused on, as we mentioned, news. It is focused on local reporting, so focusing on specific communities. And also, the requirement is that you must have your own digital presence, right? So basically the criteria that we outlined is the eligibility criteria for the program. If you meet the criteria, and you can explain how you are covering COVID-19 for your community right now, apply. That is the best advice that I can give you, basically. If you do not fulfill the criteria, in that you don't live in your organization is not in an eligible geography, or you don't have the right number of staff in terms of the full-time journalistic staff, then basically the eligibility criteria is quite set. So but if you fulfill the eligibility criteria, please do take some time to really articulate how you're helping to serve your local community. We are not, we're not only focusing on print. What we care about is making sure that we're supporting news for local communities, so in whatever format those are.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Irene, just for the presentation, and thank you to all of you that are dialed in. Just want to send another quick reminder that we are accepting applications on a rolling basis. So please check out the website at goo.gle/jerfund. And we're looking forward to receiving all your applications. So thank you again for joining us, and feel free to reach out with any questions and apply soon.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.